the topic of today is fashion, no, today's language. Okay, so language. That is great. So we're going to talk about language. We're going to talk about just language in general, and we're
Yeah.
going to do some words with that. So we'll just have a discussion on it. So I'm going to ask you one thing. I'm going to read you a small prompt first. Language is a principal method of communication. Have you ever communicated with someone without using a language? And how did you do that?
So till now, I have not communicated with anyone without language. But of course, if we have to, we have some certain like sign languages, or we can even write something. Though the language is required for that as well, but the speaking would not be required there.
Yeah.
And of course, the sign language is the only thing that I can think of right now.
Okay, perfect. So, what do you think about language in general? What do you think about it?
Uh, Language is the mean to express your feelings, of course,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that way only. I mean, like
Okay.
I explained to you, that how did I get interest to in English and all. So
Hmm.
English was never treated when I was kid. English was not treated as a language, but it has been treated as a subject. And even today, it
Yeah.
is taught as a subject to many state board students, and that is the problem that they everyone face, that they are
Hmm.
unable to learn it or grasp it.
That
But at the
everyone
same time,
faces. That everyone faces.
yeah, that
Because
everyone
you're
faces.
talking about everyone, so you're talking about
Yeah,
more
of
than one
course, of
person,
course.
right? So everyone faces. Yeah, continue.
And that everyone faces, and that is the reason. I mean, I was trying to say that if you will look at the regional languages or Hindi or any other language, so people are, the children are able to grasp that because they are listening to that only since their childhood. But since they are unable to listen to English, they found it difficult to work on it. And that is the only problem, I think. So if we treat it as a language, we will
Hmm.
have no problem. And that has been case with many students as well. Like so many tutors I have uh, had here on platform,
Yeah.
like even you. So you guys are there who have been uh, speaking English maybe since your childhood, if not then at maybe when you were 10 or 12. Since you
Hmm.
were speaking from that early, you have mastered it. So that
Yeah.
is the only way we can work on any language.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. That's great to know. So, how do you think language first started?
uh, to I mean, to go back in history, I have never thought that way. But of course, like came to know when we go to the Darwin theory and all, the way we evolved from those our forefathers and all. So of course, when they were in need to talk with someone, first started they started interacting with someone. In a starting, they had some those scribbling, writing, and all. So there they found some or the other way to interact with each other, and that is how the language evolved.
Yeah. So I think they started off with just making noises and sounds, and those sounds were
Yeah.
then given meaning, right? So
Yes.
when then those sounds were given meaning, that became a language, and that kept getting built, and then people from all over the world made their own sounds and associated those
Yeah.
with different kind of
Uh,
meanings, right?
right. Right.
Yeah. Okay. So, how much of a barrier do you think language is?
Uh, Language in what sense?
So, language actually acts like a barrier in a lot of places. So, do you understand what that means, or do you want me to explain it to you?
Uh, Explain it. I
Okay.
didn't get.
So, in various situations, so suppose you travel, you're from Patna, right? So, you travel to South India, and you go on a tour
Okay.
somewhere in
Okay.
Tamil Nadu.
Got it. Got it.
No, I haven't
So,
explained it to you yet.
but I got the gist of the question. If
Okay,
I
tell me what.
talking about the barriers, of course. So
Yeah.
in that sense, of course, when we face someone who is unable to speak our language, and if I'm unable to understand his language, if of course it creates a problem, how to interact. So that
Yeah.
is of course we were talking
Yeah.
about the right.
So
Yeah.
it does that. Plus, it just takes away from the experience, right? So if you're traveling all the way down to South India to see the whole place, but your whole tour is in Tamil, so that's a
Yeah.
language barrier. You cannot enjoy, you cannot understand anything. Your whole trip is gone to waste because you can't
Right.
make it, right? And many
Right.
times, like if suppose you're getting late to go somewhere and you're trying to get an auto, but your interaction with the auto driver because of a language barrier has messed up the destination. So you end up in some other place and you miss your flight,
Yes,
right?
of
So that's a
course.
language barrier. So
Yeah.
the question is, how much of a barrier do you think language is? So you're saying it is a barrier.
Of course it is, and I have not experienced it in at first hand, but of course the people, my friends who have gone to other places, like they have visited South India, and then they explained that how much troubles they face even today. Like
Hmm.
at some places there are nobody to interact with you in your language, neither Hindi nor English. They understand only their original language, and so you
Yeah.
find it very difficult. You are unable to interact with him. You are unable to get auto to place to reach your place, or even to interact with for having your food at restaurant and all those. So these are the
Yeah.
things that becomes problematic.
Hmm.
And of course, whenever we go to such places, we face all of this only because of these languages.
Yeah. That's true. So the next question is, how is our language different from animal language?
Uh, the animal language, I mean, they interact with on the basis of their instinct, if I say. I have not learned much about animal language, but this is what I can think of. That of course they talk, interact with each other on their instinct,
Yeah.
sorry. And we have a proper set of language. We can interact, we can talk, we can speak, all right, whatever we can do in our language for sure. So this is the main difference.
Yeah. And I think, one second, I'm just writing down what you're saying.
Yeah.
So I think one thing that you're missing is that animals interact, I think their interactions mostly based on actions. They do
Yeah.
something, they do something. So if the interaction between a deer and tiger would be the tiger chasing the deer. So theirs is all
Right.
usually based on action, um, based on instincts, like you said, to eat, to
Right.
sleep, to feed, all of these things, more than actually using language. Yeah, they do make noises and things like that, but again, noises are again just indications,
Yeah, of course.
right? Yeah.
Mm,
Okay,
they
so
use that.
do you think that one day there will just be one language in the world? Would the world be a better place?
Of course not. I mean, like we talk about India, that there is unity in diversity. So that is the essence, and that is the speciality of our country. That
Yeah,
even after so much diversity, we are united, and that is the speciality of the country, the world as well. That we have different languages, and different cultures have been evolved on the basis of that. So if we want to learn about that culture, or that, I mean, that culture, the way people used to live and all, we will have to interact in that language. We will have to read those books, or maybe to
hmm.
listen to those interviews, the people from that are speaking in those languages. So, of course, if we talk about one language in this world, I don't think this would be a good idea. Of course,
Yeah,
we need one global language so that everybody could interact with each other, but only that language is not a good idea. So
yeah,
we will miss out a lot
yeah.
on that
So,
basis.
but at the same time, don't you also think it'll be, if we have one language, it'll be easier for administration purposes?
Ah, I have not thought that way, but of course, uh, like if we talk about administration, the way our constitution has been designed and the way the system works, we do have state governments, and they can run on their own. So people from there work there. People from those areas can work for, though even they can work across the country or across the globe as well, but they get the help. And that is, I would like to say or add that that is the speciality of life. We try to learn something. Otherwise, why would a Bihari learn a language from South India, either Konkani or Malayalam or anything? But if they have to go there and work there, they just try to learn that language as well. And learning anything is just the better idea to live
Yeah,
our life in a better way.
yeah,
Of
that's
course,
true.
like we say that life is a learning process. It, so I think that the way we are living, the way it has been designed, is much better than going to one language. So there
Hmm.
must be one language probably that we have as well. Like we say English. English is a global language, of course.
Yeah, that's true. So, do you have a second language? What is your second language?
It's Hindi.
Hindi. Okay, that's great. I just wanted to know. So, even I used to learn Hindi as a second language in my school. So, is it ever hard for you to speak English because you're always translating your thoughts from Hindi to English?
It used to be. Uh, I mean, earlier, like I said, I have learned from that process only, from translating
Okay.
and all. But now
Yeah.
I'm good enough to think in English and
Hmm.
speak as much, as many or as long as I can. I mean, if
Yeah.
there is some topic on which I'm getting or able to create the ideas, I have no issue to speak.
Hmm.
The only thing is, only the problem that I face sometimes that I feel that I'm unable to find the appropriate word. So maybe
Hmm.
uh, that would be the advanced level. So I'm still not advanced English speaker, but of course
Hmm.
that is the process. If I reach there, I'll have to work
Yeah.
for that.
So, do you think it's possible to forget your first language?
Not at all.
Why?
I mean, we can forget some technicalities, of course, but as far as it is about to interact with your uh, listeners, of course, you are not going to forget that. No matter for how many times you leave it, you will get to used to talking to that.
Yeah.
I mean, talking in that language. But of course, some like I said that we can miss those technicalities. For example, I'm working on English, and if I leave and if I do not interact with anyone for the next 2 years, and then I start again, I will have to start again as a fresher. I
Yeah.
would forget almost everything.
That's true. So, I think that practice is the most important to keep you consistent with what you're learning. So
Right,
it is possible to like, if I'm suppose my first language is English, and if I don't talk English for years together, then yeah, I mean, I obviously will not forget the language. I will always be able to understand it because it's been internalized in me.
yeah,
But I might not be able to be as fluent anymore, or it wouldn't slip off the tip of my tongue. I would have to actually try when I'm speaking because
right,
my environment has been so different in these years. But I don't think there'll ever be a time where you will not have to speak your first language in a while, unless, yeah, you move. So, if suppose I leave, or if you leave the country and go to the US, and maybe you won't speak Hindi as much. But at the same time, you'll still be interacting with family members. So it's always
right.
going to be a small place where the practice of your first language is going to continue,
Yeah,
right?
right.
So we have only 3 more minutes left of the session, so I want to give you some feedback and give you a couple of suggestions, if that's okay.
Yeah,
So I first want to start by saying that I really like the way you speak in terms of the philosophical quotes that you use while talking. You use a lot of quotes and a lot of abstract meaning sentences, if you get what I'm saying. So yeah, that's great. I'm glad that you know that it's very useful to use when you're speaking. So I'm glad. And I think that you're speaking confidently. I think your points all make very sense, not a lot make a lot of sense, and your thought process is great. But there are a couple of things that I'd want to bring to your attention. So the first thing is I think your sentences are very long. So you're starting off and you're going on without stopping in the middle with full stops, with and, with all these things. You're just going on with it. So for example, you said something like, we can talk, we can write, we can speak. You didn't even give like a pause. You give a pause, but like, we can talk, we can write, and we can speak,
Okay.
right? So make
Yeah.
sure you use and, make sure you connect things, and make sure you don't make your sentences too long. Like a lot of times when I did ask you questions, you spoke for a long time about it, which I want. But when you're talking, you need to make sure you're adding full stops and starting fresh sentences, because otherwise the listener is going to zone out, because the sentence is
Right.
too long and they cannot keep track. Like you started off by saying something and it diverts into something else, so they are not going to be able to keep track, right? Now, the next thing is you also use a lot of connectors which are not required in a lot of places. So you kept saying I mean, you said so a lot, and you kept saying and all in the end. And other than that, you also used if I say. Like you would say something and you'd be like if I can say or if I say. So these are connectors that are not required in sentences. So and is required, therefore, hence, or even these connectors can be used once or twice, but you are using these in parts where you don't know what to say at that point. Instead of ending the sentence
Right.
saying, you're saying I mean, or you're saying so, then you after the sentence you're saying if I say, and things like that. So because of that, um, it's a little, you can see that you're a little bit unsure about what you're saying. So try to use these a little bit lesser,
Right.
right? And for grammatical errors, they were just small errors. So you, example, you said at first hand. So you can just say first hand. There's no required to say at first hand. It's just first hand
Okay.
information, or I heard this first hand. Like there's no at first hand, right? And you
Right.
said I told you about the. You said everyone face. I told you it's everyone faces. You corrected that perfect. And I think that's all. In the end, you said getting used to talking to that. It's getting used to talking in that,
Okay.
right? So these errors actually you are able to correct yourself, because I watched you make the error and then you correct it by yourself. So that's good. That's good that you're able to do that. So it's just this thing about long sentences and connectors that you need to work on, but you will as the sentence, as the sessions go forward. Yeah,
Right.
that's it from my side. Uh, I hope you had a good session. Thank you
Yeah,
so
of
much for
course.
joining.
It was lovely session.
Thank you
Bye
so
for
much for
now
joining.
and see you in
Bye. See
another
you.
session.
Yeah, of course.
Bye.
Bye bye.